All right, in this tutorial, we're going to look at the blend tool, which can be found right here next to the eyedropper tool on the advanced toolbar, just in case you don't have your advanced toolbar up. Toolbars advanced or basic, click on advanced and you can see all your advanced options there. I'm going to start a new document, Command N or File New, and 8.5 by 11 is fine. I just want to play around and have an artboard. So there it is. So what I want to do, I'm just going to create two shapes. Doesn't matter what shapes, I'm just going to grab a rectangle. From here, I'm just going to create a fill. I'm going to add a fill, make sure it's not white. I'm going to get rid of the stroke. It doesn't really matter, but I will get rid of it. And I'm just going to add a nice colorful fill. That's fine. And I'm going to create another shape. What I'm going to do, I'm going to right click and get my subset of tools here. And I'm just going to click on a polygon tool. And there I go there, and I'm just going to change up the color because this is going to help us with the blend. Now with those two selected, what I can do is actually click on my blend tool, but instead of just clicking, I'm going to double click. If I start with a double click on it, which can happen with most tools, you can double click on a tool and it'll actually give you some options for that tool before you even start using it. And if I look, I could see spacing. I could do smooth color, specified steps, specified distance. Now some of these are already set by default, but if I go to specified steps, it's default at 8. Let's just say I'm going to put 20 in there and say okay. Now what I can do, that they were both selected, I click on one and then I click on the next, and they will blend together with 20 steps. With them still selected, I could double click on my blend tool, and now I have the option to preview, and I can see live changes by using one of these. Specified steps, smooth color. Let's see what that does. It makes a smooth color from the gradient, which adds a lot of steps. But if I just go to 20 steps, I can bring it down to 1, creating some interesting shapes in between. Or I could bring it really far up and create many steps. A very smooth transition or a very banded transition. And obviously I can go to specified distance if I want more of a distance. The smaller I go, the tighter it is. The higher I go, the less it is. That's the distance there. And for now, I'm just going to bring it up. I'll say specified steps, and I'll bring it up to 20. And there's my 20 steps. I'll say, okay. Now, something else interesting happened here was that when I made my blend, this line showed up. This line here is called the spine. I can click on just the spine if I hover over it, and I can now play with just the spine. I could, with my white arrow tool, I can click around with just my points and move it around. And I could play like that, which is totally great. The other thing I could do with my spine, I can actually change it up as a normal path. I'm going to click on my anchor point tool and just click and drag, and now I can make a curve out of it any way I want, and now I have a nice curve. And once again, with my white arrow tool, I just move it around, do whatever I want there. Okay, and with that, that's just your normal blend. I can actually also do blending through the object dropdown. Object, blend, let's see some of the things I can make. I can release it. I could have blending options, which is the same as double clicking on here. I could expand it. I can replace the spine, reverse front or back. Let's try reverse front to back. So now this is in front and this is in back. So just something simple like that. But the spine, let's look at playing around with the spine. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click on my pencil tool. My pencil tool could be found under the shaper tool. Clicking on the pencil tool, I'm going to double click on that tool again. Just before I do anything, double click. And what I normally, by default, it's set to the middle. So when I draw something, it's not really accurate, it's not really smooth, but what I want to do, I'm going to bring it all the way smooth, and I do have a couple different options here, but I'm going to leave those ones as is. I'm just going to say, okay. What I can do now is as I click and drag and just make something interesting, something simple, Illustrator will automatically smooth it out for me, some of those points. And what I could do now is select both of these, my actual blend and my new line, go to Object, Blend, and replace spine. And when I replace the spine, becomes the new spine. The old one is gone. And now I have that. Once again, with that spine, I can click on it, I can move it around, I can do whatever I want with that. I can delete points, I could add points, whatever I want to do, depending on what kind of blend you want. And still, I could double click and add more steps if I want to add more steps to make it do the live preview, sorry. And then I could add more steps and do whatever I want to do there. Okay. And once again, if I go up with it selected, I go to Object, I can go to Blend, and I could release it. What happens when I release it? Well, it just releases everything. The one initial shape to the second shape to the spine. But I'm going to undo that, Command Z, and now I'm going to go back to Blend, and I have my blend option. I can expand it. So what happens when I expand it, I'm going to have all those shapes are now separate from the blend. The blend is officially gone. I have that shape and this shape and this shape and this shape. All those are individual shapes. If I click on it with my black tool, yes, everything's still grouped together. I could ungroup it, or for now, I could just click on a shape and move it around, but obviously I'm having issues there because there's so many tight little shapes in there, as you can see kind of here, but all those are now their own individual shape, which is really kind of interesting. Let me actually do that. I'm going to click on it, ungroup it, Command Shift G, and now they're all ungrouped, and I could just click on that and move that around. So now it's no longer blended, it's editable blend, but it was blended and now it's released, it's expanded, which we've seen that happen with expanding. Object expand, it releases itself from editable options. The next thing I want to do is I want to do something we've seen before, is I'm going to play around with the pencil tool again, and I'm just going to create 4 interesting lines. Nothing too crazy, just simple stuff. And what I should do as well is select all 4 lines and actually give them at least a stroke to start off. So I'm going to give them a stroke of black just so I can see them. And I'm going to blend these together. So I'm going to select them all, and I'm just going to click on the blend tool, and I'm going to click on 1, and see how the asterisk shows up. It shows me that I'm actually selecting something. And I'm going to click on 2. I'm going to click on 2. I'm going to click on 3. I'm going to click on 3. I'm going to click on 4. So I've connected them all together. And once again, here is your spine that shows up. And I could play around with the spine. I could do something interesting with it. I could move it around. I could make it curve if I wanted to. So I have my curve by clicking on the control panel, clicking on this curve tool. It takes any point and makes it a curve, adds power or control arms to it. And now I have control over that. And once again, with it all selected, I can click on that, double click on the blend tool, and I could add more steps. If I want to add more steps with my preview on, I could add more steps and create something very interesting there. I'm going to dial it back just a little bit because what I want to do now is add some color. So the original 4 lines are still there. Let me click on the first one, and I'm going to add a stroke to it. There's my stroke, and I'm just going to make it whatever color I want. Same with the second one, whatever color I want. The next and the next. So not only are the lines or the shapes coming together with color or blending, but now I'm also having the colors blend together as well, which is right there. I pick another one, and there I go. Some kind of interesting rainbow effect. And I can do whatever I want with this because it's just vectors, lines that are all together. It's still in blending mode and in editable mode, so I can play around with that. Once again, I can click on another and create another spine if I want. Select both of those together, object, blend, and replace the spine. And there's my new spine. I can do whatever I want with that. Object, blend, I can reverse the spine and reverse front to back. Whatever I want to do there. Once again, I could release it back to its original point with the spine, or I could expand it, and once I expand it, it's going to be released to all these individual lines. But before I do that, I just want to look at one more thing in my swatch panel. My swatch panel, I have extra libraries that I could look at. If I click on the drop down, I can actually go to Open Swatch Library and click on Gradients, and look at all these different gradients that I have. And one of these gradients I really love is spectrums. But there's lots of different ones you could look at that are already preloaded for us. And with that, I'm just going to have it selected. And I love this dark spectrum one. So now I have that there. It's in my, as soon as you click on it, it goes right into your swatch panel. And it just kind of has a certain unique look to it. But obviously there are many different gradients you can make yourself and or get from this swatch library. And once again, here I have my blend. I'm going to go to Object, Blend, and I'm going to expand it. Now that it's expanded, they're all individual lines. If with my black arrow tool, it's all grouped, I could always object ungroup it. Or I could select individual lines here and just move things around if I want, whatever I want to do, but I can now individually move all those, and it is no longer editable as a blend. So I could actually take this, ungroup it, object, ungroup, click on one line, and move it around and take it out and kind of play around with the design as well. Again, a very interesting way to play around with it. You could do this with type, you could do it with shapes, you could do it with any type of vector and blend things together. And that is the blend tool.